that shows you just a list of all the magic spells in the game. If you look at it, you could kind of be like, where if I had all this magical power, I could take this spell and make this device that I use in real life. And yeah, there's a minor illusion, the spell minor illusion, which allows you to create a silent image. And in one episode of Critical Role, an old character decided to use a staff of minor illusion, not to create illusions, but to take selfies. He would essentially took a picture of the group and then stored it as a minor illusion. That's a camera. So
that's pretty creative.
Yeah, so if you had the ability to create a minor illusion, do you need a camera? So the way you view magic in your world would be essentially the replacement of technology. Now, there is stuff like clockworks or warforges, which essentially people are like, well, then why do we have technology? Well, that's because not everyone is capable of doing magic. Some people who are like, I can't do magic, decided, well, I can't do magic, but I'm really good at building this thing. Let me build this thing, and oh, look at that, it can shoot a bullet, or it can walk and talk.
Well, here's what I was thinking. I kind of think in this world, magic is extremely rare, especially in the old world, like in Europe, Asia, and in Africa. You know?
Well, you could do that, and there are, in my opinion, far too many people who do that same exact thing. They limit magic. There are plenty of things where they say there is no magic. Magic doesn't exist. And unfortunately, that is creating a bias against people who do magic. Any casters, nowadays with all the character creations, every class can pretty much cast a spell. You're essentially going to say, hey, look, all these cool things you could do don't exist. And then what happens if you have a wizard on the party who is purely magic based? You're pretty much saying that that one character is gonna have a harder time because you, the GM, don't want too much magic in their world. Now, you can have it where magic is as rare as it should be, because I do believe that nowadays there's way too much magic. Magic was supposed to be for wizards, and wizards were supposed to be able to heal, necromantic abilities, summon things, and all these things. And what do? They split that into different classes. Now you have the warlock class, and you have the sorcerer class, and you have the wizard class, because all of that combined is what it was supposed to be, but people didn't like that there was that much power. What people don't realize is that I've played plenty of magic users, and deciding your spells and getting into the details of it, that's what makes that class difficult. Yeah, you can pull off really cool tricks, but it's the complexity that makes that difficult. So if you want to make it rare, remember that there are rare items that are supposed to be rare. Nowadays, if you play a card game, look up online for the most rare card, and you'll see that hundreds, if not thousands of people have that card. That card is not rare. It's not rare. So you have to look at magic in the sense that, yes, it does exist. The low-level magic can be common. You know, having the ability to flush a toilet using some magical ability isn't gonna break the game, isn't that big of a deal. But then once you get to the point where like everybody can cast magic, then it gets then you wonder, why is there magic? So yes, make your magic rare, but don't build a negative bias towards magic.
Well, I was also thinking, like, you know how I said it was rare? Well, I didn't explain fully. Basically, unless it's like lower levels and stuff, like how you mentioned it, like magic that comes from the person is rare, but magic that comes from items and stuff is more common, like the hex blade, you know?
And that's where you take the mage and you split it up, because what winds up happening, and you can do this, a lot of campaigns do this, is that now being a wizard is pointless, because the wizard that could cast fireball doesn't compare to the fighter who got the sword of fire. Does that make sense? Because now you have one character who has high AC, high health, and can do fire stuff the same way that a wizard does, which means you're essentially eliminating the reason for a spellcaster. If you want to do magic items, I would say play around with curses. So it's a magic item that's cursed, like in Pirates of the Caribbean 1 with all that gold that they stole and then realized that it cursed them. If you're going to have more magic items, then you're going to have more cursed magic items, because who made this item and what defense mechanisms did they employ to make sure that that item stayed in their possession?
Yeah, like, I was kind of thinking of, like, a Knights Templar kind of thing in Europe where they use basically hex blades that all have separate abilities, you know, but only like the 10 strongest of the knights can do that. And they all have like negative and positive effects on them, you know? Kind of like the curses, like you said.
Yeah, and if you do it that way, then you're balancing things out. So that way, okay, the fighter can do fire damage, but whenever they do fire damage, in order to activate it, they have to take some damage themselves or something like that. Now, being a wizard, it still makes sense because now the wizard can do that without having to suffer the consequences of that additional item. But the person who gets the item can now match the abilities of a wizard. Can you see how that balances things out?
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Obviously, it's your world, do whatever you want. You'll find that a lot more people have thought your way, and that is perfectly fine. I just like to let people know that if you do carry it too far to one extreme, too much magic or no magic, you're creating a negative bias towards people.
So, like, a good example of a balance time list is, like, let's say a Templar Knight, let's, like, call it, like, Cassander. He has, like, a hexblade, like, sword that can produce, like, this pure kind of fire, but the drawback is whenever he activates it, he also takes fire damage.
Exactly. And I have one module that I created where it's located in a sort of forest jungle area, and a lot of the creatures there are not necessarily vulnerable to ice damage, but they don't like ice damage because they're used to the hot climate. So a lot of the guards have ice weapons, and all it does is it converts the damage that it deals to an elemental damage and does a little extra flair. So I believe I had a hammer that cast Ray of Frost. So when you hit your opponent with it, it did a little bit of extra damage, and then it slowed their movement by 10 feet. That is not game breaking. You know, that's not going to ruin everything. So, and then the fact that every guard had it meant that, okay, you can take out this guard and now you got this cool weapon, but that doesn't make you special. Every other guard has that weapon too.
Also, I have this other idea that's also from Fool's Gold, and it's related to the Texas, but in a different direction. Basically, in Fool's Gold, there's this character that the creator of Fool's Gold said she plays, named Sips. Basically, a monkey character that has this, like, curse on it that when, like, Sips is a wild magic sorcerer, and each time this curse grows, the percentile of the wild magic increases. And I thought that'd be interesting to add to the game and stuff, you know? Like...
As an NPC?
Yeah, either NPC or a player character, you know?
Well, if you want to do it as an NPC, you could have it where maybe the ship that they stole just so happened to have a life form on it that is essentially like that. Imagine a ship that has an automatic water elemental that runs or repairs the ship or whatever, but the water elemental also has wild magic, so that whenever they use their abilities to fix stuff, there's a small chance that they blow up or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, wild magic sorcerers have always interested me. When I get done DMing this, I'm probably going to play like a wild magic sorcerer in another campaign.
It's super fun because the roll of the dice once your wild magic goes off is scary, and that's what players like. If anything, you could have a parrot. Like, here's and this is just an idea. You don't have to say yes. Imagine there's a parrot that just so happens to be on the ship, and your party steals the ship, and now the parrot is, you know, slowly getting accustomed to him. More than likely, the players will try and be like, oh, now this is my parrot. And then they find out that the parrot has a wild magic curse on it. but it's attached to them. It's attached to the party now. The parrot loves being with the party, so it follows the party. And now, every now and then, the parrot will squawk and wild magic.
You know, that makes me think of this like story I heard on Reddit. It's a pretty funny story where this one guy, his wild magic sorcerer cast wild magic while they were climbing out of this trench to escape from attacking gnomes. And he summoned a giant lobster.
And wild magic will do that.
They were kind of in an underground water area, and the lobster destroyed like the dam and stuff, which like made the whole area flood and sent like the gnomes and the lobsters in the water. And so another player's a wizard sent down like either an item or a spell that heated up the water to the point where they basically cooked the lobster and the gnomes.
You see, players will find the most crazy solutions to problems. And would you have ever in a million years been able to guess that was going to happen and that was how they were going to solve that situation?
Absolutely not.
You know, so that's why being a GM is it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. Because, oh, I never mentioned this, one of the reasons why I love doing this is because to me it's like a TV show. I created the story because I decided what genre I want to watch today. I want to watch a comedy, I want to watch an action, I want to watch a sci-fi, I want to watch a horror, you know? And then I create the story, I create the game, and then I have the players play it so that even though I know the gist of what's going to happen, the players introduce this level of randomness that makes it entertaining for me to just sit there and imagine what's going on as though it was a TV show. And I think that is probably the most beneficial thing you'll get from being a GM. Being able to sit there and, you know, watch the show that you want to watch.
You know, that got me thinking of this other idea I had for when the characters enter Atlantis and stuff. And it also relates to exploring the characters, more specifically their backstories, their traumas, and their motivations. Basically, I had this idea what there's this room of mirrors in this castle in Atlantis, where like they look in it and then they get like sent to this alternate mirror plane where they have to face like their traumas and stuff, you know, in order to get out.
Like a dark realm.
Huh?
Like a dark realm? A realm of, like a shadow realm?
Yeah, but like a mirror realm. So it could be like them fighting themselves, and the terrain turns into like an area like that affected them in their past. Like
you could, if anything, I would say save that one for if it's Halloween, and then then you can make it like a horror thing. So it's not just a room of mirrors; it's a house of mirrors.
Oh, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Yeah. And again, all these things, like I said, you got to get a notebook or a piece of paper or something like that, and you're going to have random ideas every now and then of, ooh, in this island, I could have this, and over here, I could do this, and then you're going to come back and you're going to add details, you're going to change it. Never be afraid to change things. If you find that the story needs to be altered, alter it. Don't be so stuck on, no, this is how it has to go, because your players automatically make it so that whatever you say is not going to be what happens, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, okay. The Haiti thing, the Haiti Dominican Republic, where did we land on that? The story for that one. And try and don't use combat on this one. Use a social or utility.
Okay, what if in Haiti there's this whole culture around art and stuff, you know?
Okay.
And like they make this art and stuff, you know? And some of the magic uses in Haiti, you know, some of the few that are there, make like magical art that like
ooh, I love
affects how, like changes and affects the emotions that people see it, you know? And in the Dominican Republic, they're more like food focused and making the best like food and stuff, you know, like, you know,
magical food. They actually have a spell, I believe, in D&D where you could create a meal and give the party bonus resistances and HP and stuff like that, so they could make magical food.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be that way. It's
like food that, like, Yeah, I was gonna say make you hallucinate, but I'm pretty sure that's just drugs at
Ooh.
that point.
Well, hold on, because we haven't figured out the story yet. It could be that, yeah, there's one side that creates art that can affect the person reading the art. And there's a movie I remember watching, I think it had Jennifer Love Hewitt, where she was a chef, and whatever emotion she was feeling while she was cooking, that's the emotion the person had when they ate her food. So if she was crying when she made her food, when the person ate the food, they would just start weeping.
Yeah, Jennifer Love Hewitt, isn't that the one who was in I Know What You Did Last Summer?
I think so, and yeah, I believe so. I think she was also the main character of the movie too. I forget what it was called, but it was a whole romance thing. She was in love with a guy, and she came across a crab, and she made the crab her pet. So, because she couldn't cook it when she was a chef, they told her to make crab, and she was like, "I can't cook it." So it kind of like just hung around the kitchen. But yeah, I believe that was her.
Huh.
So
Also,
okay.
did you know she was in Criminal Minds for a season?
Yeah, I love her in Ghost Whisperer. Excellent show, totally 90s. Like it gave you that. If you watch Ghost Whisperer, it gives you that 90s TV show feel really well.
Seen Criminal Minds?
I've seen a few episodes.
Well, you should check it out. It's my favorite crime series. In my opinion, it's better than Law and Order and NCIS. You know?
Well, I would say then, while you're watching the show, take some of those crimes, throw them into your world.
Oh, that got me thinking. Have you ever heard of the legend of Spring-Heeled Jack?
No, I don't watch many.
Basically, in the early 1800s, there was this whole legend about this guy who attacked women and guys and was scratching them and then blowing fire from his mouth before jumping away really high.
Interesting.
And that was the first urban legend.
Interesting.
It was a really weird story because people were actually getting attacked, but it wasn't something supernatural. It's probably somebody with those spring shoes,
Yeah.
It was most likely somebody doing that, but it was really weird because there were reports of people actually getting attacked. Nobody's exactly sure what happened.
Is that what you want to incorporate to the story here?
Yeah, I can kind of imagine let's say in a city we talked about Cuba and stuff, so let's talk about Havana,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever we'll call it. What if in the cities at night there's this man who attacks and kills men and women before taking off again, and nobody's sure if it's a man or some sort of magical monster.
You can call him Jack the Leaper, like Jack the Reaper.
Ooh, that's good.
And it's you could work in a story where it's at night it's a serial killer. Incorporate the Jack the Ripper storyline, but also the urban legend of maybe throw in where he leaps in, assaults the people, and then leaps out. And he could be maybe a half frog or something. I don't know.
Sounds good. So, back to Haiti and the Dominican Republic.
Yes.
We got art that affects people's minds and food that affects people's minds.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the ramifications of this once news goes out to the rest of the Caribbean?
Well, there has to be a problem that happens, something that goes wrong. Now, let's put you in this situation. Let's say you were a magical artist, and I told you to create magic, a piece of art that could affect the way a person feels. What wrong can you see coming from that situation?
Imagine let's say some sort you were told to if I was told to paint some sort of propaganda piece, that was meant to get people angry. It actually made people too angry, and people start getting attacked randomly by enraged citizens.
Awesome. Okay, alright, so then using that dot, I can kind of see where in the Dominican Republic, for the food aspect, there could be some sort of food poisoning.
Yeah, let's say some sort of food makes you miserable, not only psychologically but physically, since you're saying food that would affect your emotions and stuff, and so they end up putting people in this almost comatose state. And
Okay.
so, like, both of these instances lead to like a huge scandal breaking out in like the whole of the Caribbean.
Well, I would say for this, because remember, this is the story for just the island. What we have to do now is we have to tie these two problems together. So imagine you live on an island where a series of propaganda art has turned people violent. Meanwhile, people are getting sick left and right from food that they're eating, not sure whether or not food is safe. What we want to do now is combine these to one source. One thing is doing this to everybody. What is that
What
thing?
if? Okay, you know how people like would like profit off of a war and stuff, right?
Yes.
What if a group of people hired like magical users to like affect these like odd pieces in foods, and
Dude, that I
and
see
then-
where we're going, yeah.
then they would get like the countries to blame each other, leading to a war where they could profit from it.
Weren't you saying that Haiti and Dominican Republic were having a turf war as well, with in real historical times?
Well, yeah, they'd have the occasional war and stuff.
What if we made it where the Western Pro wanted to take the island, and instead of doing a physical combat, you know, a battle for the area, because the island was so stable in its two main factions, the Western Pro decided to put insurgents into both factions. So they sent magic users to Haiti to corrupt the art and release a series of propaganda images that turned people violent, wanting to fight the people in the Dominican Republic. Meanwhile, they sent a series of magic users to the Dominican Republic to poison the food, to make them weak, to make sure that they lose the battle. But the Western Pro is really just waiting for everybody to fight and kill each other so they can come in and mop everything up.
That sounds amazing, you know, like that sounds like an amazing like plot and stuff and story, you know? Like I said, you're an amazing DM.
Thank you.
Hey, I just thought of something. What if after they defeat like Spring Hill Jack, what if afterwards, right before like he dies or disappears, he gives the location of one of the missing pieces of the Atlantis map? Not the actual piece, but the location of one of the pieces.
Yes, absolutely. You got to use because we haven't even gotten into the NPC aspect. Any NPC, any non-player character that you have can be an outlet for another plot hook, another clue, and trust me, you want to use that as much as possible. I follow the rule of 3. You never give one clue to something. You got to give 3 because people are stupid. Your party is going to get distracted really easily. So if you just give one clue and this guy's on his phone, this guy's talking to someone else, this one's eating food, no one's paying attention, guess what? That clue meant nothing. So, and the problem that a lot of GMs and DMs have is they'll make everything about that one clue. They'll make it where like, once you know that clue, everything becomes clear and what you have to do becomes obvious. But then the party never gets that clue. They never piece it together the way the DM ever wants it to. So you gotta do as many as possible. So every NPC, every character you have, definitely if you need them to convey another part of your story to keep it going, do that. Do that.
Okay. Hey, real quick.
Yep.
Oh, just real quick. Just want to mention something I just thought of for Parafolly. You said like having a monster in it. What if it's a false Hydra?
Ooh, interesting. Clarify.
So like, you know how the false Hydra can like, you know, make people not realize it's there?
Mm-hmm.
What if that's basically weaponized for Parafolly? Somehow the citizens gain a resistance to it perhaps, but the rest of the world doesn't. So even if they do look up during like a mostly clear day, they wouldn't be able to see it or recognize it's there because the false Hydra is singing and stuff.
Like a sort of camouflage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
You know, false Hydras are creepy as heck, you know?
Yeah, no, that works. Awesome. You actually have a few locations here. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, so we have Mushroom Island. We have the Pirate Paradise. We have the Florida Keys / Miami, Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, and finally Cuba. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's our 6 islands. Okay, so now we need an overarching story that gets the party to each one of these 6 islands. Now, the Pirate Paradise is going to be obvious. So really, it's just the 5 islands. The Pirate Paradise, all you need is for somebody to say, hey, look, the Pirate Paradise, Pirate Cove, whatever, is over there, and they don't care if you guys have bounties. Your party's going to go straight to there to buy all their stuff. So that's not that big of a deal. So really, you just need one story that gives the party a reason to visit these 5 islands.
I can think of one. Trying to find clues of the missing pieces of the map of Atlantis. Like, they heard, like, through, like...
Well, remember that the end villain is the, essentially, they have to talk to Jack Wellington, so we gotta tie that into his story. To give a cheesy example, let's say that he only talks to people who have collected a special artifact from each island. If you collect an artifact from each island, he's willing to grant you one favor, like a genie or something like that. So can you see how now they have a reason to go to all these islands? It's a cheesy example, but that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, what kind of story can you use to link these together?
Okay, so when Jacob Wellington first sees these, like, the players and stuff, he saw dollar signs, basically, potential money to be made, but he doesn't like bad investments, you know? He's a man of wealth, of money. He's a man who doesn't like to gamble on big things. So he says, I'll help you if you prove you're actually competent. And so he sends them off on missions to prove that they can actually function and stuff, and so that he can actually make some money off of them and stuff.
This is perfect. This is perfect. So they actually go to Jacob Wellington first. Not necessarily first, but early on, and then he sends them to these other islands. Okay, so then, like the Mushroom Island could be a simple test of power. The Florida Keys could be a sort of weapons agreement or something like that. Like he stands to profit off of one side winning as opposed to the others.
Springtail Jack could be like a test of investigation and wit.
Well, that would be on the Cuba island itself, right?
Yeah, so he'd probably be the first test, honestly, right?
Well, I mean, the one that, well, because how do I put it? Jacob Wellington isn't responsible for the Jack the Leaper dude. That's just a problem on the island. So I would say what would happen is first the party captures this killer, this serial killer. Maybe they land on the island and they're at a tavern and they see the guy attack someone. They see the thing attack someone, and now they have to stop it. And by stopping it, it granted them audience with Jacob Wellington, who said, okay, well, I only work with good investments, so I'm going to send you a couple of places to prove your worth, and if you come back, you know, alive, I'll do you a favor.
Ooh, then the Haiti and Dominican Republic ones could be the test of wit. Trying to figure out what's going on.
Exactly. You see? So can you see now where it's like he's sending him through trials, and after completing these trials, they're worthy enough for him to invest in and do favors for. So okay, so then the Mushroom Island is the test of power. Is that what you want to do it?
Well, I was thinking of having the Mushroom Island as kind of a separate thing, you know, like at the start of the journey, you know?
Okay, sure. So then it's just the Florida Keys and Jamaica and Dominican Republic.
So what would be the test for the Jamaican Republic? Like the test of what? Maybe
an up-and-coming colony. Homeland seeks to reclaim territory. Where does he make money off of that?
How would he make money off of that?
If you were...
Maybe offering his protection put on, like,
ooh,
if he, like, if they offered to pay him a yearly amount his fleet would offer protection, and he convinced the British to not to reconquer.
So
So, like,
if
I feel like they would be sent there to convince the Jamaican government to accept the offer. So it could be a test of will to see if they're able to do this, or a test of courage. Because, like, Jacob Wellington has a lot of influence within the British Empire. Well, the starting British Empire is still a kingdom, basically, but you know what I mean. And also still England at that point. Anyway, he has a lot of influence in England because, like, he basically owns a small army. He's basically a privateer, basically, you know?
and because he's a governor, he has political influence. So if he gets them to pay him for protection, he smooths over the entire scenario, telling the homeland, don't worry about it, they're cool now, and I'll keep an eye on them. Meanwhile, they're like, oh, we're independent because we pay him. So he's kind of keeping his word and scamming them at the same time.
Yeah, and, like...
And it doesn't necessarily have... Sorry, go ahead.
That money could also be going back to England to convince England that, hey, you're getting money off of them, you know, there's no need to reconquer.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, I get it. And it doesn't have to be like a test of wit or anything. I was just using that as a sort of metaphor or analogy or something like that. But I like this, what we're doing here, a sort of vetting process.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did we decide on for why is he sending them to Haiti/Dominican Republic?
Basically, I imagine that as to, like, basically, I believe they sent he would send the players there to test their like investigative abilities and wit stuff, to see if they're actually, like, smart enough and clever enough to do what he would want them to do, you know?
Remember though, he has to make money from these things. He's all about money. So what is the profit?
What is the profit?
Maybe he owns the finest gallery and restaurant on the island, and whatever.
That's a good idea. Like, after, like, after many of the magic users were ousted, he took control of the companies, like, making these things.
And now,
you know?
Yeah, and now all this hullabaloo is essentially ruining business for him.
You know, I can kind of see this building up as, like, the players making a future enemy down the line with, like, Jacob Wellington, you know?
Possibly.
Like,
the thing about sandbox campaigns is that you don't know who the villain is going to be at all times. Because the story grows as the players play, a simple encounter could turn into now this one NPC guard that you never thought was going to be a villain becomes the biggest villain of them all.
Yeah, because the players are basically making Wellington a more powerful political figure in the Caribbean.
And maybe he's trying to catch up to Jackson Dredd to replace him.
Yeah.
You know?
So I kind of see... The thing about Jackson Dredd is I don't see him as a pirate lord, I see him as, like, a wannabe pirate lord, you know?
Well, the story is yours to make as you wish. So really, once the game starts progressing, you'll be able to see from where you are what things will come out into the future. For all we know, Wellington could become their best friend and Jackson Dredd their worst enemy, or vice versa. That's sandbox campaign. If it was a story, then no, I would be like, you have to decide if you want him to be good, if you want him to be evil. If they can be swayed, then what sways them, stuff like that. But because we're not sticking to a specific story in a sandbox, you just gotta accept if an NPC becomes the villain, you gotta embrace it.
Yeah, like, the basic idea I have for this campaign is basically players helping me build the story, basically.
And that is good in most situations, because especially with, like, backgrounds and stuff nowadays, if you took all the players' background stories and mashed it into one, you pretty much have enough to make a story right there. So eventually what could happen is your players' backstories kind of take over the sandbox campaign for a little while, so that let's say one character had their parents killed by some demon. Well, after this module, they're welcome to take over the story for a little while to go defeat that demon. So I would say let the players add to the story, but you gotta have a plan. With the story in mind, you're better off than with no story in mind.
Yeah, like, I kind of have an idea of how this, like, campaign would end, you know? But I don't know how the journey would go there, you know?
And remember, that's to say if the players even make it to the end.
True. Also,
and I don't mean by, like, dying. I mean by the simple fact that in most games, you'll wind up playing 2 or 3 sessions, and then for some reason, time constraints, nobody can play anymore.
You know, also, it's weird that you mentioned demons, because before I made this, I wrote up some notes about a possible Demon Slayer campaign as well. And I wrote down, like, 12, like, alternative demon moons and stuff set in the 1980s.
See, there you go. And with this under your belt, I would say once you've run this module, you could have, if you want, I would say run the module, then pause and either run the module again with a completely different group or try a different story. Don't just go from this module straight into the sandbox, because it'll give you a chance to flex those other muscles. That story of XYZ thing that can't fit into your world, here's your chance to actually play that for a little bit. And you'll be able to flex the muscles and get a little more experience under your belt.
Okay.
So, alright, the Florida Keys thing, what did we decide on that one?
Basically, Jacob Wellington supplying weapons.
That's right, weapons. Who is he supplying weapons to?
I kind of see him supplying weapons to both sides to get the maximum amount of money.
Yeah, he would do that.
Though I'm pretty sure he would keep, like, his dealings with the other sides a secret from the British, though, or English, you know?
What if he wants them to continue fighting? What if the Florida Keys Miami section isn't about defeating anyone? What if the party's mission is to disrupt the diplomatic meeting? He's selling weapons to all of them. He wants them to keep fighting because he keeps making money that way, and they're about to have a peace talk, and he doesn't like that.
And also, that'd be a pretty interesting character moment for, like, let's say a lawful good paladin who really wouldn't want to do this, you know?
Oh, that's true. That's true, and I don't want to have to force a player not to do something. I
don't know, but it could be like a 2 options thing where they could either accept this or fight against this.
True,
know?
It is to clear their name, and the paladin, oh man, that is a conundrum.
Yeah, it's like a moral conundrum, like, what would the paladin want to do, you know? Like, honestly, he wouldn't want to prolong the war, but at the same time, he wants his name cleared, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that one. That's gonna be a tricky one.
Yeah, because, like, difficulty, like, it's not just solely based on combat. It's also based on, like, non-combat situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that would be an extremely difficult and interesting situation for a paladin, for basically anyone lawful good.
Okay. Alright, so we have laid out the premise for the entire module.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Now there's a little more detail to this, but essentially, from, if you can see what I have here, I'm going to take this, because it's no longer session 1, it's just an island that they visit. Oh, wrong one.
Ooh, I just came up with a name, I think.
For the module?
Yeah, like Unseen Seas.
Ooh, I like that.
Rolls off the tongue good, you know? Because the whole feeling I want for not only this module, but also for this campaign, is exploring the unknown. Whether it be the unknown for just the players or for most NPCs. Basically journeying to mysterious areas and basically alien things, but not really alien, just like, you know, alien meaning strange and unusual, you know?
Yeah, because then you can include areas where it's like a whirlpool, kraken, uncharted territories, because even back then the world wasn't fully mapped out, and some of these places that they're going to could be completely uncharted territory for them. All right, so I'm gonna run through this situation. The players start off in prison. They have been wrongfully accused of a crime by the Western Pro. They're in prison, in a Western Pro prison, wrongfully accused of a crime. Oh, that's right. We have to decide how they break out. Ooh, and you could have the breakout be because Vio, the bounty hunter, was tired of waiting to see how they broke out.
Yeah, and plus, he's changing. He can like.
Ooh, what if he leaves the keys for them to get out? He changed into a guard and left the keys to be like, hey, you can unlock the door. After that, it's up to you on how to get out of here.
Yeah, that sounds like really good. Because like, I imagine like this would cause some tension with certain members of the group, because like a lawful good like paladin, if we're going with our general idea of a lawful good paladin, he would like the character would probably want to stay to his name, but then like let's say if the riot happened, he'd really have no choice but to flee, right?
Well, you could just make it where they've already been accused and sentenced to death. Like, that's it. There is no appeal anymore. You guys are gonna die tomorrow morning, and then there's the keys right in front of you.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that might be better for the story overall, you know?
Because it rolls over this, it doesn't make this a huge session thing. It just makes it this is the scenario. It's called railroading, where you kind of take the players and go, look, I know you want to do all these things, but this is not the part of the story that we're gonna distract ourselves on. We just need to get over this hill. So you kind of force them to follow this little path for a little while. Railroading, when done right, forces the story to move along. So they're sentenced to death. That's it. There's no appeal. And then a guard absentmindedly leaves their keys close enough for them to figure out a way to get the keys and get out. And then that's it, you know?
Yeah. So after this, either during a riot or during a chase and stuff, they make a mad dash for the closest boat and get basically the heck out of Dodge.
Yeah, they're probably in a port city. Well, obviously in a port city.
Yeah, I kind of imagine like Lisbon, Portugal.
And this is another area where you're probably going to have to railroad that they cannot take any other means of leaving this area. So you're going to have to make sure that whatever horses or carts or flying whatever things are covered. That the prison has guards on flying griffins and men on war horses traveling the city. It's a protected city. So the only place that seems like there aren't that many people that'll fight them are the docks, because they kind of handle their own situation. The docks, the sailors and all that stuff, they kind of police themselves, so the guards don't necessarily feel like they have to go around there as much. So it's one of the more vacant or guard-free areas. So you kind of have a lot of extra guards in the air and on the ground, so you force the players to go to the sea. Now,
yeah, I can't imagine like a whole like soldiers like line like encircling the city because they heard they broke out and want to make sure they can't get out of the city, so their only hope is to go by sea.
Yeah, and I would say at this point, that's when Vio starts to chase with a group of flying creatures, flying guards or whatever, guards on I don't know, griffins or drakes or whatever you want to make them. And some boats. They managed to outrun the boats because they managed to pick one of the faster boats, but Vio and the flying guards are still on their tail, so you kind of have a small battle, maybe have it just a couple of guards, something that the players can defeat easily so that they have to retreat. And Vio, who obviously survives the encounter, is still kind of pursuing them or like promising to return. Maybe the guards do some damage on the boat. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, which the damage on the boat will probably like lead to them crashing onto the Mushroom Island.
Exactly.
What should we name the island? How about Met?
Met?
Like MES-H. MESH.
Mesh.
Basically, it's meant to sound like mess because, like, at the start, they're in quite a mess. You know, getting sentenced to death, barely escaping on a damaged boat. You know.
I love it. Mesh it is.
Like it's kind of symbolic, you know, of the current situation.
What is it called when a ship goes on land?
And then they find the noble in his like ruined like boat drinking away.
They have to. I forget what it's called. There's a word for it when because ships actually had to do this in real life back in the day. A ship would have to not dock, but they would have to go on land to do repairs because the ship, they would essentially tilt it over and do repairs to the bottom of the ship. What is that?
Yeah, like I don't know what it's called, but I've seen it in Pirates of the Caribbean.
I forget what it's called though. There's a term for that. That's gonna bother me.
We'll just call it docking. Oh wait, are you googling it?
I'm just gonna beaching. I can't believe that that's the word that I got stuck on.
Yeah, I remember that one now. Don't worry, we both got stuck on it.
Okay, so
wait, I just realized something. Okay, so the nobleman and his crew said they repair the ship for like the crew, I mean for the players, and then like the players go on the way. What about the nobles? Like
they fix his ship too, and they go their own way.
Oh, okay.
That's why he needs the crew, because he doesn't know how to fix a ship. So he needs the crew back so that they can fix his ship so that he can leave.
Okay, sorry for the confusion.
No, it's fine. It's your story. So, so from what I'm getting here, okay, so Vio attacks them, causes damage to the ship. They have to beach the ship for repairs, and the only place nearby is Mesh Island, where they see another ship that's crash landed, another beached ship, and obviously this is going to entice the players, you know, loot and whatnot. So they encounter the drunk noble. What's his name? Garfield.
Albert.
What? Albert? I'm going to call him Albert Garfield. How does that sound? Say it again.
Judging from his sorry.
Go ahead.
Judging from his last name, I'm guessing he doesn't like Mondays. Oh yeah, I can just imagine me like doing his voice for a campaign, going like,
you see,
Monday, more than usual, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And it'd be even funny if it wasn't even Monday. He just got so drunk that he thinks it's still Monday.
That is hilarious. You see, the game is already building itself. This is the beauty of it. This is the beauty of it. So they're forced to land on Mesh Island. They encounter the drunk noble Albert Garfield, who hates Mondays and drinks rum or whatever alcohol you want. And he asks the party to help him free his crew, and in return he offers money, cannons, magic items, and repairs their ship. And then that gets them on their way. Oh, and a map. How does that? Well, every ship should come with a map on it, so they probably have a map somewhere on the ship, I'm guessing. What would you say?
Yeah.
Okay. So the ship already had a navigation room. That room has a couple of basic maps, nothing special. So that way, well, yeah, that way they can kind of see where the pirate island is, the pirate paradise. So after they finish helping the noble, maybe one of them already has the map. I don't know who. That's one thing that's going to be important. The map to the pirate paradise, because that's obviously a secret island, supposedly.
I'm sorry, what?
The pirate paradise, the island paradise. Would you want that to be shown on a regular navigator's map, or maybe like have it secretive or something. Or maybe in between, maybe the navigator was a pirate, so he has a little note where he knows where the island is.
Here's how I imagine. I imagine less as like just one island, is more as like most of the Caribbean being considered a pirate paradise. And like, I feel like it would be an open secret with pirates, and not really known to the general public.
So it's secretive. But I'm talking about the island that they would go to for trade and rest and, you know, the place where their bounty doesn't matter. I just called it Pirate Paradise.
Okay. I imagine it'd be Cuba, you know? If we're specifically talking about islands, I think it'd be Cuba. Something like...
Okay, no, I get what you're saying. So the Pirate Paradise is Cuba. What did I just say? There it goes. Cool. So yeah, okay, so from there they go to okay. The noble tells the party about Jacob Wellington as he's leaving, thanking them for, you know, returning his crew and blah blah blah. The party has, you know, as they're, I guess, for dinner, he invites them over for dinner to celebrate whatever, I don't know, and they explain their story. And the noble goes, well, the only person I know that can solve your problem is Jacob Wellington. So the noble directs them to Jacob Wellington. They go there. They already know about it, but now they know who to talk to. They go there, encounter the serial killer, Jack the Leaper, or whatever. I forget what you want to call him. And
yeah, I think we're going with Leaper. You know?
Okay. They encounter that as he's, I guess, killing his next victim, and maybe you add some sort of sob story. This is something you gotta practice, and it's gonna happen a lot. For a little quick encounter, something short, you want to have some sort of motivating story. So maybe the person he killed was somebody they were just talking to. Maybe it was the connect. Maybe one of them knew somebody on Cuba and was like, hey, I know somebody there, let me go talk to him. And they meet up with him, and they're like, yeah, I can get you to Jacob Wellington. And as they're leaving, that person gets attacked by Jack the Leaper. So now the party's like, oh dude, you just killed the guy that was gonna help us out. So now they gotta find the serial killer. How does that sound?
That sounds good. Okay. I also have this other idea though.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I kind of imagine like them going to a hotel for the night because like they've been on a long journey and stuff, so they need to rest and stuff. And you know, the hotel like owner, like the hotel lady, like she was like she was being real nice to them and giving them like the rooms half off because she'd see like the, you know, what's for wear, you know.
There you go. Yeah.
They rest well, and when they go down there, they see her dead, killed by Jack the Leaper, who only strikes at night. So basically, they go hunting for him. Basically. Also, the half frog pot, I can kind of see that as like being a curse, or maybe like entropy for a frog version of it, right?
That was an idea, because you said the leaping aspect, and I figured if you give him a monster trait, then you can give him kind of weird abilities. So maybe he can stick to walls. Maybe he has like a long tongue that can like grapple the characters or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's not anything like a horned demon or something like that. It's like a low-level monster. So they're level 3. This isn't like they're fighting like a Lich King. This is a frog dude.
Yeah. You know, it kind of reminds me of the first episode of Soul Eater where Marco...
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, just like that. So when you're in this part, that's kind of what you're thinking. It's not the big guy. This is just, you know, a low-level, you know, serial killer that they gotta handle. And then,
man, I loved Soul Eater. It was like my first real anime, you know.
Oh really?
Yeah. That Death Note and Future Diary were my first like 3 animes.
I would say, oh man, I don't even remember what my first ones were. I know I got started during Adult Swim on Cartoon Network.
Oh yeah,
So
God, remember Tsunami?
yeah,
Yeah,
man.
like that's why I actually got first introduced to One Piece. Actually,
Actually, that's how I wound up watching Hamtaro, this weird cartoon about a hamster and a bunch of his friends that was like Care Bears, but with hamsters. But it came on before all my other shows, Dragon Ball Z and Reboot and all these shows. So I had to watch it because I got home and that was the only thing they were playing. So I had to watch that episode to watch all the other episodes because this was back when cable was a thing. So I used to fall asleep watching Hamtaro and then wake up and be like, oh, my shows. Sometimes I would fall asleep watching Hamtaro and then wake up and had missed all my shows, and I was so mad because, like, dude, I don't even like Hamtaro. I know. But yeah, that, man, I don't even remember my first. I guess Dragon Ball Z was probably one of my first animes, obviously. Pokemon, that was another one.
so what's your favorite anime?
Oh, I have quite a few. A lot of the classics: Death Note, Full Metal Alchemist, Naruto, One Piece, Soul Eater, the staples. You know, Fairy Tail, awesome one. I think with anime, what it is, it's like exploring different concepts. So I have a lot of different things that I'll watch. There's one that I watched because I love philosophy. Kino's Journey. That was an amazing anime. It wasn't like super hardcore in the storyline or anything like that, but it spoke about philosophy. So I really enjoyed that one. There's Hikaru no Go, which is about a game called Go. It's a Japanese game called Go, and it's a little kid who he's wanting to play the game, and his grandfather had an old board in his storage room, so he goes to get it, and when he touches the board, a ghost comes out and goes, oh hey, I'm the master of this game, and I used to teach kings how to play, and I've been stuck in this game until somebody freed me, and now you freed me. Can you help me complete my unfinished business? And what was his unfinished business? To become the best, in the world. So it's just this whole show about him playing a game. And there are too many animes. Overlord was awesome. Black Clover's amazing. There's too many animes. I don't know if I could tell you a specific favorite. I love Cowboy Bebop. A lot of people don't like Cowboy Bebop, but I love Cowboy Bebop because I loved jazz. I loved the melancholiness of the whole show, so it was very droll. And I know that sounds weird to say that I found it entertaining, but it was a very fresh perspective in all these space things when Star Trek and Star Wars were all around the place. Then you have just this bounty hunter in space who is depressed all the time. So that was like a fresh take for me.
Well, for me, it's two different definitions, like favorite anime show and favorite anime series, My favorite anime, as in like show, would be Code Geass, which is the first time I really liked political drama shows.
Code Geass, I remember that one, yeah.
Yeah, and my favorite anime series is without a doubt Fate.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I know it's confusing as hell, but I love it.
Well, no, that's actually perfect, because I was just going to say that you could, if you rewatch Fate, you could definitely pull some inspiration from that show. Like what we just did here, we created Mesh Island. Mesh Island does not exist on the Earth map. So what's going to probably wind up happening is you might occasionally want to add another island or say, okay, this area isn't what it is on Earth, it's this other place. And watching Fate, you could definitely pick a little plot of land and be like, I feel like acting out that episode in Fate that I really liked.
Which episode was it?
I was saying it in quotes for you, so that the episode that you really like in Fate, you could be like, well then, I'm gonna make this area where that's going on, and I'm gonna have my players go over there.
Okay.
I can't express how important it is to like look for inspiration. And a lot of the inspiration can be found by your normal day-to-day life, watching the TV shows that you like, listening to the music that you like. If you find like you like the true crimes thing, well, who's to say that you can't watch every episode again and now have it with a notebook and pen, and anything where it's like, ooh, that's a good way to kill somebody, let me write that down and use that in my story. Just be very careful that nobody finds that book, because then you're gonna be suspected of stuff with a whole list of just different ways of killing people.
Yeah, like that kind of reminds me of this like one story. The founder of Pulp Fiction magazine, which was a big deal for like sci-fi books back in the 50s and stuff, is basically like the publisher and owner of it was basically telling this one guy how to like making a story about a nuclear like weapons storage and the scientists behind it, and the U.S. FBI and CIA actually like came into his home because he was unusually accurate as where the weapons were.
That's suspicious.
Yeah, but no, he just literally guessed because of how good the locations would be, you know?
Yeah. Alright, okay, so back to the matter at hand here. They go to Cuba, encounter the serial killer, take care of the serial killer. That grants them audience with Jacob Wellington. He sends them to Jamaica, Haiti and Dominican Republic, the Florida Keys, and Miami, essentially to test their worth and make sure they're worthy of him doing favors for them. The island is like a paradise for them because their bounties don't count. They can do trade, they can get goods and rest and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about like if the players had a moral objection to like continuing the war in the Florida Keys. Basically, by that point, they didn't have enough knowledge on him to know that he was planning to supply weapons to not only the English but to the Spanish and the natives.
Yeah.
So what if like if they have moral objections, they could just use a good old blackmail trick, the blackmail use, you know? And to him, that would prove their worth as well in their wit and stuff.
Well, you can't predict what a player would do, but that's definitely something to prepare yourself for. I wouldn't be surprised if some clever player was like, oh, well, I just figured out all your devious little plans and I'm going to rat you out if you don't give us what we want. But remember, this Jacob Wellington is the Scarface of the area. So he's one of the 9 pirate lords. So them trying to blackmail a pirate lord isn't gonna go the way they want it to exactly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I figured by that point he'd be too powerful for like third level players, you know?
Well, by the time they encounter him, he's already too powerful. And the fact that he runs the island, he has people under his control, ships, an army. For them to be like, I'm gonna blackmail you, he'll be like, well, good luck getting off the island.
It could go a lot of different ways, you know?
Obviously, that's why I'm saying you can't predict what players will do. I wouldn't be surprised if a player did that, and what you should do is whenever you run across these situations, you want to become, now that we've done this, you want to be the player. Put yourself in the player's position and actually play this game with yourself. Play it alone. You're the player and the GM. And stuff like this where, okay, now as the player, what if I want to blackmail the guy? Now you got to pull out your notebook and be like, what happens if the players try and blackmail? And you got to figure that out.
Yeah, like, the feeling I get around Jacob, like, Wellington is that he values his position in the English Army and Navy like extremely high. So like the blackmail could work, but could also backfire severely.
Well, if he was / is still a pirate lord, and he's moving into the governorship, he's probably trying to essentially do what Jackson Dredd is doing, taking over both sections, both sides. He's the pirate lord and the governor. So I would say at that point, he would be more prone to eliminating anyone who challenged or posed a threat to his reputation. It's like an evil political, like a Jackson Dredd would be the congressman or Senate representative, whereas the governor, Jacob Wellington, is just a governor. Can you see where, like, in the actual political hierarchy, he's not all the way up there. He's definitely got control, but he's not at the tippy top, and he could be one of the first pirate lords. Maybe make him level 9 or something like that. And well, it depends on how many people in the party. If you got 4 players at level 6, he could be maybe a level 9 with a couple of henchmen, and that'll be a good fight. But essentially, you make him the lowest level. He is the very bottom of the pirate lords, because he's liking the political aspect of it more than he liked the pirate stuff. But he's still also a pirate lord. You know, he hasn't gotten rid of those ways.
Yeah.
So, okay, so then he sends them off to these places. 3 factions, turf war.
Yeah, there's something I've been meaning to ask you about something.
Go ahead.
Okay, so, let's say in the boss fight with, Vio, you know, like the final boss fight in this, like, module, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But would it be appropriate to use, like, glare actions or some sort of equivalent to that? Like, he does some sort of action, you know?
The villains are however powerful you want to make them. So obviously that's an obvious answer. What I'm getting at when I say that is you can do that, and if you want to do that, totally do it. Give him whatever abilities you want. Just allow it to make sense. If he has a lair action where he can summon a bunch of tendrils. You know what? That's what I'm looking for. What you want to do is look up magic items, and then look at the powers that those magic items have, and give him the magic item, or maybe just give him the ability of it. And I know there's a cape that it's a magic item that you could use in action, and it's kind of like the cape is made out of tendrils, and the tendrils kind of like go into the ground and go to the player and kind of reach up from the ground and hold them in place. That's not necessarily a lair action, but that's definitely an ability that doesn't come with your normal class leveling up stuff. You know what I mean?
And also, that kind of relate back to what we were talking about earlier. Magic items and curses with them, you know?
And if anything, Vio could be decked out in magic items, which is what makes him so powerful. So he's not just a bounty hunter with a survival knife. He's the high-tech bounty hunter that has all the gadgets and gizmos that he needs to get the job done. He has the best magic, whatever. And then you could have, because I foresee Vio being like a reoccurring character, so even after the module, chances are Vio's still going to be around chasing the party or doing something.
Yeah, like, I see him also getting stronger as the campaign goes on.
Exactly. So more than likely what'll wind up happening is you're going to start off with Vio version 1, and then after the module there's version 2, and he's going to keep growing from there. So he's the bad guy that while the party was level 3 and he was level 6, now the party's level 6 and he's level 9. And they're constantly trying to catch up to him until the one day where they do catch up to him and there's a big fight.
Also, I can't imagine at that point he'd also be working for the main campaign's big bad evil guy, you know?
Jackson Dredd. They're friends, and they find out that if anything, you could hold off the secret till later on. They don't even know by the time they're done with this that Vio framed them. By the time they're done with the module, all they know is that their names have been cleared. But as the sandbox campaign progresses, they eventually run across Vio and find out that he's working with the really big bad, and find out that them being taken out was on purpose. Them being framed was on purpose. And Vio was the one who not only framed them, but gave them the keys to break out.
I just thought of something really creepy.
What?
What if later on in the campaign, they find out that one of the main reasons like Rio hunts down and kills people is he's searching for identity. So when he kills people, he takes a piece of their clothing and wears it.
Interesting. Having a little trophy aspect to his kills.
Yeah, and plus, with him being a changeling, I feel like his character would also be like in a desperate search for identity, you know?
Not sure who he is, yeah. So,
Yeah.
and you see, that can be made into either a villain or, hey, in the Sandbox campaign, what if they wind up being friends, making friends with Vio, and helping him discover who he is? So that's...
Yeah, and it can also be like somewhere in between, like where he's an ally at times, but other times he's not. You know?
Yeah, like a lone wolf who, you know, I'm only saving you because you saved my life that one time and I have honor, but after this we're enemies again.
Kind of reminds me of when Luffy and Crocodile worked together to get out of Impel Down.
Yeah, exactly like that.
In fact, maybe in this campaign I can add an Impel Down time.
And if anything, since we are kind of doing a Pirates of the Caribbean One Piece mashup, you could probably watch both of them, you know, watch the Pirates of the Caribbean again and One Piece and start taking notes, any cool ideas, because yes, what I see what you're trying to do is essentially take real world history and turn it into a D&D game. But you also have Pirates of the Caribbean and One Piece to essentially pull from, so you could take historical situations and make them fantasy. So it's still telling the historical story, but now instead of a human, it's a tiefling. You know what I mean? It could be a gnome, it could be an orc, and instead of using a gun, they could use magic. So you have plenty of resources. That's why in the beginning of all this, I was trying to figure out what motivated you to make this campaign, because now you have a reason to rewatch the shows that you love, and you can pull more inspiration from them while you rewatch it.
I gotta say, thank you for all of this. You have been an excellent help, and I gotta say this, I know I sound like a broken record, but you truly are an amazing DM.
I appreciate it. I work really hard doing all these things, and honestly, it's gone to a point where this is the fun that I get. Can you see where it's like, we just played the game. You and I just started and ended this whole module between me and you. We didn't have to roll any dice. We just talked about it, and it was just as fun. Now imagine throwing that in front of players and going, even though I know what's going to happen, they're about to change everything